Hello, this is 6bolt in Von Doom's lab. We're going to be talking about release of Hook of the Reaper version 1.1.5. So it's going to be a big release and a kind of a milestone for Hook of the Reaper project, as it kind of concludes the major coding of the light gun coding. So it's a pretty big milestone. So let's get into it. So let's first go into the bugs for it. So kind of going off from last week, we had the recoil system for the alien gun still not working right. So kind of what I decided to do is just remove the recoil delay for the alien light guns. I think it's just causing more problems than helping out. So as most know, I put it in to help kind of save from like fast recoil games. So there's only like a handful of fast recoil games. So if there's still a problem after it goes out, and there's some people say, hey, I think my alien gun will be damaged if I played like House of the Dead 4 or some other these fast recoil games. What I plan to do is implement a new safety feature that's kind of put in with the patterns. So I kind of looked at House of the Dead 4 and I looked at the period for it. I used my new LG TCP tester program. So in the latest version, it has timestamps with it, so I can easily figure out, how fast the recoil is going. So the recoil on House of the Dead 4 is 50 milliseconds. So if you're holding down the trigger, I think you get like 30 bullets. So then those 30 bullets are going at 50 milliseconds a second. So it's really fast. The recoil delay default for the alien gun was 75, so it's 25 milliseconds faster. So what I was planning to do with the safety feature, instead of trying to have a timer that blocks recoil until a certain time happens, or kind of block it, and if it does a recoil happen, it does it at the end of the timer. I'm just going to block like every other recoil. So, the first one will come in, then it'll block the second one, the third one, block the fourth. So if you think of like every even one, it will block. So if the recoil is happening at every 50 milliseconds, that will make it every 100 milliseconds. Then I would put that into the game file. So we can say, hey, for player 1 or player 2, do the skipping kind of recoil. And I think we only need to do one. So I still have to figure out how I'm going to reset it, because if you pull down the trigger and it goes and it ends on a second where it just fired, then it's going to block the next one. So when you pull the trigger again, it's going to block it. But it might not be that bad. It's only 50 milliseconds, so I think that's like 1/20th of a second or 1/200th of a second. So it might not be a problem at all because it's happening so fast. Or I think what I can do, I can put a timer in. If the bullets are not firing or nothing shooting, it will just reset it back to, go back to let the first one go, then do every other after that. So that's my plan. So just for the alien light gun guys, just they know there is no more recoil delay protecting the gun at 75 milliseconds. I took that out. So just watch out for the fast games, and if you think it's going too fast and you want to slow down the recoil, I can. And also the other good thing about that solution where I do every other, it's all synced up, because then it doesn't depend on like the period. It doesn't depend, because I'm just doing every other. It takes out a lot of the syncing issues. So I'm not worried about, when you start firing, when you're not. It just removes every other recoil and makes syncing a hell of a lot easier. So that's kind of why I decided to go that way, as the recoil delay wasn't not working kind of that way. So that's kind of with the alien gun, kind of seems buggy with the recoil delay. Okay, so moving on, USB doesn't show up in player's assignment. So if you had like a USB gun like the alien light gun, it wasn't saying USB after the name of the light gun, kind of like how it does in add light gun and in edit light gun or in player assignment. So, but now it does. So I fixed that. It just wasn't checking if it was a USB light gun or not. So I had checks in the other windows, but just not in player assignment. So that's fixed, and I verified it. So now it shows up as a USB after it. Okay, if a USB light gun is first in the list, it causes a pop-up warning. So I don't know if this was always in, or I might have put it in for adding some code in, because I did put some 2 new light guns in. But I kind of noticed this, if there's the first light gun in a list is a USB light gun, it pops it up because it's, it sees it has the COM port is unassigned because it's not using the serial COM port, it's using the USB HID. So that's why a pop-up warning comes up saying, hey, there's no COM port. But now I fixed that and verified it. So that bug should be done. Okay, if you delete the last gun in the list, the edit light gun window closes before it can play the sound. So usually you'll hear the gunfire sound to say, hey, the light gun got deleted. So I added in a delay. So the other stuff had an added delay, but just forgot this one place. So I added in the delay for that. And now when you hit delete the last light gun, you hear the gunshot, then it closes. So that's done and taken care of. Then the last one, if the USB light gun is first on the list, it was not showing info on the right side of the screen. So it's kind of like another COM port kind of thing coming before. So the COM port was trying to grab the COM port info and then erasing all the USB info. So I kind of made a check in there with the COM port kind of side to say, hey, if it's a USB, don't run kind of thing. So after that, the information now shows up on the right side. This is like the vendor ID, all the stuff on the right side of the add light gun and edit light gun. So all that is fixed and verified. So if it's in the USB first light gun on the list, now when you go into edit light gun window, it shows up on the right side. Okay, so those are the bugs. So let's go into enhancements. So I had one enhancement, and it was to add off-screen reload. So when you fire off-screen, it does a reload function. So I think when I changed added the display stuff in, I think I changed that on version 1.1.4. So I'm sorry I was told about it, but I was doing other stuff and I was out, so I couldn't really fix it. But by then I came back, it was kind of too late. And then, like I said, I had like graduation going on and all that with my daughter. So it kind of just got pushed off. But pretty much a lot of people had to add that command into the HOTR file, or I know OpenFire added it to their program too, where you can just set it. So what I did there is I added it to, well, I did two things. First, for OpenFire Gun for IR and Fusion, I add the off-screen reload, hitting the reload button if you shoot off-screen for open fire, gun for IR, and fusion. So I added that to the HOR file. And also I want to say for people is, it's all right to, change like the HOR files of your light gun. So it's like, don't feel bad. It's not like set in stone. So if you do want to change something in the HOR file, you please do. I mean, it's open to suit your needs. So let me bring this over here. So this is the open fire. As you can see, I added the M1.2. But if you want, these are where all the commands and what data goes with the commands. Like here's the recoil, here's damage, here's reload, So if you want to change something, so here's the open com and close com. So I know people had to put the M1 times 2 in there for this. And the second thing I did is also I put it in 2 more commands. So I have an off-screen button command, which does the M1 X2. Then also I have off-screen normal shot, which changes it back to, just a normal shot, so it doesn't reload if you shoot off-screen. So if that, happens for some game you need it, you can put that command in there if you want to or not in the game file. But I put these 2 commands in there. So I just want everybody to know, just like if you do need to change the HOR files or if you want to change it to suit your needs, feel free to do that. Okay. So that was the only enhancement was those off-screen reload and the 2 new commands. Okay, so let's get into the good stuff, the changes for Hook of the Reaper. So I'll take this down. So the changes for the Hook of the Reaper were, the first thing is I did add in 2 light guns to Hook of the Reaper. So let me get it up here. And let me see if I'm good. So the first light gun I added, which might come to a surprise to a lot of people, but it's actually Ultimarc AimTrak. That was kind of the super secret light gun. So when I talked to Ultimarc to get some hardware for testing for the LED boards and display boards kind of thing, they wanted also to get the AimTrak into Hook of the Reaper. So they sent me some testing equipment for the LED and also sent me an AimTrak to use out. So I got it in, but I did have to follow their requirements for it. So one requirement, they didn't want the recoil to really go too fast on it. So they said so it can only recoil every 0.25 seconds, which is 250 milliseconds. So it can recoil every 250 milliseconds, which I set it at. So if you open the Ultimarc AimTrak kind of program and they have like a recoil slider, you probably want to put it between half and 2/3 is a good spot. If it's too high, then it'll skip more recoils because it has a temp sensor in there. And if you're using a lot of power, it gets heated up, then it won't recoil for that speed. Then if you go below a half, it's so low, it might not recoil right, and also you might get double recoil because depending on how fast you do the trigger. So probably around a half to a 2/3 is a good point. So I tested it out. It's working in the games and it's recoiling. So this is for also the AimTrak that actually has the recoil. I know there's AimTraks that don't. So if you have the recoil, then it will recoil the light gun. So it's working, so it's actually another kind of cool thing to have. So another light gun to be added to the list. Then, like I said, there was a requirement to slow down the recoil for it. Okay, then the second light gun was the Xenas gun. So I know they're still not out yet, but I got it in from the information they had on their website. So I put all that in. So people with the Xenas gun, hopefully, I know they have some test stuff, so they can probably try to use it out to see if it works. I got the commands in and got it in, so they can try it out. So I put some display things, and I made some requests for some of the displays already. Because to do the display, you have to send like everything. You have to send the colors, and you have to send the background, the color of the font, the color of So I was hoping after you do that once, then you can just update just the what's showing, the words or the values showing, instead of doing all the colors for everything. So they said they'll get that in. So, but right now it should work. But that's the second light gun. So now we're up to 10 light guns. So I think I have pretty much all the light guns you can use with force feedback into Hook of the Reaper. So right now. So as more light guns come out, hopefully we'll add them in. Okay, then the next thing, let's say I just changed, since I was changing a lot of stuff. I did change, so usually the player's assignment was stored in the light gun files, but now I took it out. So here, let me go into where one says it. So instead of being in the lightguns.hor file, I separated it and called it, now it's like its own file. So I actually kind of half-assed it and called it playersAss because player assignment was too long. So now it's playersAss.hor file for the player's assignment. So, okay. So now let's move on to the kind of the big stuff, which going in. So how am I going to do all the recoil kind of stuff? So first, kind of let's go over the different ways recoil happens in Hook of the Reaper, right? So for kind of right now, we have ammo value, we have recoil, rumble to solenoid, then we have recoil value. So all light guns, all the ones supported, all 10, all support ammo value, recoil, and recoil rumble to solenoid. Then 3 light guns support recoil value. So let's talk about kind of, whoa, okay, I did not mean to do that. So looking here, it's kind of like how output signals kind of happen. So you got like recoil, which is kind of like for a solenoid that just goes up 1. So how recoil works is it looks for this 0 to 1 transition, kind of like here. And that's where it does the recoil. So like right here, and right here. And that's kind of how recoil works. And it's supported by all the guns. Then ammo value is kind of similar. It looks for decreasing of the ammo value. So as you go from like 2 to 1, like right here lining up with the recoil, it does a recoil there. Then 1 to 0, it does a recoil. Then 30 to 29, it does a recoil. So it's just a little different way. It's same kind of spot where the other recoil is. So how does the recoil rumble to solenoid work? Well, that's kind of, I'm doing the rumble recoil. So some guns used a rumble motor to simulate recoil. So when you pull the trigger down, it just went high. Then when your finger's not on the trigger, it went low. So that's sometimes called the gun motor. So it's kind of this signal here. So this signifies when you have the trigger. So when this is high is when you have the trigger pull down. So what Hook of the Reaper does is it just creates solenoid pulses during when this is high. So how does that do that? Well, if you bring these commands back in the HOTR file, you have this command, recoil rumble to solenoid. And by default, I just set everything to 100. So it does a recoil every 100 milliseconds when it's, in that cycle. Until it goes low, then it stops and it restarts again when goes back high. So if you want it to go faster or not on certain guns, you can change this to, you can go down to 80 or 60, or I think the limit is like 40. I think 40 milliseconds is the limit, because that's like really fast recoil. I don't even think some guns can even do that. So here kind of sets the time. So this is the time. Then in the game file, you can do more with it. You can skew it by a percentage. And the reason why I did a percentage is because once you get timing right for every light gun, then the skew in theory should be right for every light gun too. So if you want the game to be like slower, you can make it like 150%, or if you make it 200%, then this will make it 200 milliseconds. So you get a recoil every 200 milliseconds. You make it 125 milliseconds, it will make it 125. If you make it 70%, it will make it 70 milliseconds, kind of thing. But it's kind of easy when it's 100 milliseconds to do percentages that way. But that's in the game file. So you do recoil rumble to solenoid space like 70, or or 125. And that's kind of how that works. So if there's that signal in there, it'll work. And I kind of put that in for the Alien 3 game. Okay, then the last one, recoil value, is only supported in OpenFire, Fusion, and Gun for IR. This is where the output signal directly controls the solenoid. So if you look here, when it's low, the solenoid is kind of, in its normal sitting position. And when it goes high is when it activates the solenoid and shoots it out. So I know if you're using CTM recoil, it's 10 milliseconds, but if you go into Demol Shooter, you can change that around. But right now, if you're using the default settings of Demol Shooter, it goes high for CTM recoil for 10 milliseconds. Then it goes low at least 40 milliseconds before it does another recoil. So that's kind of how recoil value works. That one I was really kind of scared of, because I know the other guns have like temp sensors in them, which is really good, but that's where I put a timer in. So if the solenoid stays out for 200 milliseconds, it will try to close it and warn the player. Then it will block off recoil value until another game kind of resets it. So even if you have the temp sensor, I think it's good to have redundancy protection for it. So as you probably both know, I'm kind of more paranoid about safety. I put a lot of like safety checks and everything just to make sure nothing is going to happen or wrong or anything. So that's kind of explains kind of the different ways recoil works with Hook of the Reaper. And there was one more, as if you would know. So I did have ammo. So there was ammo value in ammo. But I never used ammo. I don't think anybody ever used ammo. So I did remove ammo command for version 1.1.1.5 because it was never used. Okay. And also, oh, I forgot to say for the ammo, you know, I could do another safety check. As you can see, as the bullets go down, it should always be -1. So how it works is you say the last number. So when you get the new number, you can go old number minus new number should always equal -1, right? Then you go 1 minus 0 minus 1. Then 30 minus 29 is 1. So you can do a safety check. I don't do that right now, but I do safety checks if it's 0, then goes up, then goes back, kind of when for one game start and end, because it will go back to 0 and all that. And I know there were some problems with like House of the Dead 4, because if you had the Reapers, they would both try to do the Z6 command, which will hold back the solenoids. So when you exit it or start it up, it would try to do that. And both guns will do that. Then if you had the power supply not working great, it would reset the gun. So I did have checks in there for, you know, where it ends and starts. Okay, but it right now it doesn't check. It just checks to say, hey, if the old value is bigger than the new value, then a recoil happens right now. And also for the patterns, the included patterns, I only did recoil value on the CTM recoil from Demolish Shooter. I don't really know if it does work with other recoil signals. So I just didn't know. So for safety, I only used recoil value with CTM recoil. So when we get to the patterns later on. Okay, so now we talked about how Hook of the Reaper does recoil. Let's kind of talk about how it does reloads, different reloads methods. So probably the easiest one is ammo value. So when you're doing ammo value, it's looking for recoil. So when it goes down low, I mean down 1, or you know, if the old number is bigger than the new number, it does a recoil. But when you go from 0 to 30, the new number is bigger than the old number. So when that happens, it knows a reload happens. So ammo, P1 ammo will actually do a reload command. So it'll do recoil, recoil, recoil until a reload happens. When it sees reloads, it sends out the reload command, which is actually, you know, if you bring up the HOTR file, you can see the reload kind of right here. So it sends that kind of command out. Okay, so then the next one is I just have reload. And usually there's not a reload signal for it. The only kind of one I kind of see is P1 clip. But the problem with P1 clip, it never goes down to 0 until your bullets go down to 0. So once all your bullets are fired, so what reload looks for is that transition again, that 0 to 1 transition right here. So when that happens, it does the reload command. but I don't think there's reload signals, output signals usually. So I only seen that one, but it's called P1 clip, which terminology is not the greatest because clip is kind of what they used in World War II when they had those little metal clips where they push bullets down and they had that little metal thing left over. That's a clip. It should be called P1 magazine, but sorry, I'm being technical, I guess. But okay, then the third option is reload value, which is pretty much basically the same as ammo value, but it just does reload. So it looks at the ammo value and just looks for this reload happening. So when the new number is bigger than the older number, it knows a reload happens. So it kind of works the same way as ammo value, but it doesn't do any recoils, it just does reload. So those are the three methods of how it does reloads. Okay, so now we kind of understand how recoil and reloads are working. Let's kind of now understand kind of the changes that are going into the game files. So for the game files, I'm adding, here, let me get this up. Okay, so here's this kind of what I've gone over. So you have the recoil options that 1, 2, and 3 are through, like every gun supports them. Ammo value, recoil, recoil rumble to solenoid. Like I said, everyone supports those. Recoil value is only supported by open fire, fusion, and gun for IR. Then ammo was removed, and we just did the reload. Okay, so for the new game files, I'm putting this new header in right here called recoil and reload. So it goes right after the players. So here, let me bring up a game real quick. So you can see here is House of the Dead 4. So you have the players coming here, then you have recoil and reload. And it's kind of set up alphabetically. So you have ammo value, you have recoil, recoil rumble to solenoid, and recoil value. Then you have a space, then you have a 1 or 0. And that 1 or 0 says if that recoil option is valid. So in House of the Dead 4, all these recoils work actually. So there is one that works, so they're all 1. So if recoil rumble to solenoid didn't work, this would be a 0. Then after it, if it does support reload, so if there's ammo values, you say how the reload works. So for ammo value, it has reload built in. So you can say ammo value, or you can just leave it blank because it knows reload will happen with ammo value. So it'll work either way. Then all the other ones, it's just reload value, as it's better than the clip. Even though House of the Dead 4 does have the clip signal, reload value is the best. Okay, so if we look at maybe Jurassic Park, where it has unlimited ammo. So ammo value, even though it does have an ammo signal, there is really no ammo value. You only really get ammo value if you get a special weapon. But as you can see here, ammo value is turned off. So you just have recoil and recoil value. So that's kind of to show you kind of different ways kind of in the pattern. And I did have like different ways here where you had kind of what we go Like if it just had recoil, like an older game in MAME, you usually just have recoil support here. You just say recoil 1. So like I said, you have to have it ammo value, recoil, recoil, rumble to solenoid, and recoil value. Has to be in that order. Then you go space after it with the 0 or 1. Then you put the reload option in, kind of thing. And that's kind of how the game knows what's supported in the game file or not. So I kind of use that to say, hey, this is a good way. So then Hook of the Reaper knows, okay, what's supported, what isn't, for recoil and reload. Okay. And as you saw, kind of looking at the patterns versus I don't, for the commands, all now use a pound in front of them. And this is kind of to say, hey, this is kind of being changed out depending on the options that people use. So if you look at the pattern now, if you look at ammo value, it has a pound in front of it. Look at recoil, has a pound. Recoil rumble to solenoid has a pound. Recoil value has a pound. And reload value has a pound. So anything used up here has to have a pound in front of it. So then Hook of the Reaper knows to go, and then, you know, if you're using that option, it will change it out with the greater than sign, or the, you know, the pointer going to the right side. But if you're using the recoil and reload stuff up here, you have to use the pound. And it's also a safety thing, so then it won't go in and you don't have multiple recoils. So then Hook of the Reaper will go in and look at things and then know what to choose. Then if you look at Jurassic Park, where so it has no ammo value, so there's no ammo value in it. It has recoil there. Then that is, and then recoil value is right there, kind of show you. But that's kind of how now the patterns work. So for the recoil and reload, you now need a pound in front of it. Where all the other stuff, like the display stuff, damage, like here's display, ammo is still the same damage, right? That's all still the normal stuff. Then, you know, display ammo, then display life down here. Those don't change, as you know, we're not moving them in and out. So now let's kind of figure out, how does Hook of the Reaper know what recoil to choose? So okay, so now in the game file, you know, if we had House of the Dead 4 with all 4 recoils you can choose from, how does it know what to use? Well, now it's based on the light gun, actually. So let me move this down. So now when you add a light gun in, as you can see here on the bottom, you have recoil and reload options. So I put recoil, since it has, you know, the most support, I put that as, you know, by default 0, but you can't change it. Then ammo value, recoil, rumble to solenoid, and recoil value. So 0 is the highest priority and 3 is the lowest. So you put those in. So if you pick recoil as 0, there's no recoil, then it's going to use ammo value. If there's no recoil, no ammo value, then it's going to use recoil, rumble to solenoid. If there's no 3 of these, then it's going to pick this one. And if there's none of these, then yeah, then the pattern's not really doing anything. But as you go through them, you can see the guns that don't support recoil value get automatically put to 3 and disabled. So if a pattern just has recoil value only in it, and you have a light gun that goes in it, then it's going to fail out because it will check to say, hey, does this gun have recoil value? Is it, enabled for it or not? If not, then it's going to go, hey, there's a problem. But it will search, you have to make, but since all guns support these, and you got to have, pattern has to have one of these in it. Usually recoil value is like optional. But as you can see, as you go through them, so when you get to like gun for IR, now you can choose the recoil value on it. Same thing with fusion, it's open. Bland gun doesn't support it. Then you get to open fire that supports the re1. Definitely alien gun doesn't. X gunner doesn't. AimTrak definitely, and the Xenas gun doesn't. Okay, so that's kind of how it knows with priority. So you can choose, and that's light gun independent. So you can have somebody who wants to use recoil using like a Reaper, and somebody using ammo value. So you can have the same light gun with two players using two different recoil things. If you're playing like House of the Dead 4, If it was 4 players, you can use all 4 if you wanted to. Okay, so now let's look at how we do reload options. So I know some people like reload, some people like reload, but they don't want to have the rumble in, and some people just don't want reload. So that's why there's kind of 3 choices at the bottom. So reload is usually the rumble and an LED flashing green is usually what I program as a normal reload. Then reload without rumble is just the LED. But on the Reaper, that does the Z6 command. So for the Reaper, if you do reload, it does the rumble and the Z6 where it holds it back. If you just do reload without rumble, it just does the Z6 command. So it's kind of, the Reaper is a little different. But if you look at like MX24, it has no options, right? It just goes to disable reload since it doesn't have reload options at all. But if you go to like gun for IR, it has a LED. So if you choose this, it'll just flash green to get that dopamine, seeing the dopamine. But if you don't want anything to happen during reload, you can do disable, and that will shut it all down. So there will be no reload. So even though there's reload in the pattern, it doesn't matter. There will be no commands loaded for reload. So that's how I kind of did it. If you look at like the HOTR file now, you'll see I have reload, then reload no rumble. So if you pick reload no rumble, it will just do this command, which is the LED flashing. Where here is the rumble here, then this is the LED. So if you pick reload no rumble, it will just load this up. Then if you disable it, it won't load anything up. So it will load no commands in and do nothing. So that's how it kind of, you can now tailor every light gun to a person's needs. So if one person wants to use recoil, other person wants recoil value, you can set it up any way you want to how to play it any way you want to, which is pretty cool. I mean, so let me bring this back in. Okay, so what about the old patterns? So what if you have some old patterns you still want to use? Well, the old patterns still work too. So you can still load them up and use them. But I might block them in the future as I get more patterns in, more pattern support. I might cut off the old patterns. But for right now, you can load in the old patterns and they still work with Hook of the Reaper right now. So anything, version 1.1.4 before still all loads up fine. But if you use the new one with the new header with the recoil and reload, then you have to use like the pound and all that. So so there was some changes with the rules of what you can use. So you cannot use the pipe with signals with the pound sign. So you can't go like this. So you used to could do it, but now changing stuff in and out, you can't really do it. And also, you would never do this because Hook of the Reaper does everything for it. You don't need pipes anything for like 0 and 1 anymore. It's all taken care of with the command by itself. So I don't think I ever seen anybody use pipes for the default LG patterns. So I don't think it's really going to be a problem. Then the second rule change is you can't change players. So you used to be able to go like a signal, then you could do player 1 command, then you go player 2 in like a different command if you want to. You can't do that anymore. You have to go signal, player, you can do player 1, player 2, all, then commands after it. You can't change the players. So those are the two big rule changes for it. Okay. And this is going through the priority. So this is the default, like I said, we went over, but you can change it when you add a like on. Okay. And the good thing is I updated the testing of the patterns. I know I haven't did that for a while, so this is where you come down here, you go test DefaultLG game file, and you'll load it up. And it works for the newer patterns and the older patterns too. So I actually found some problems with a couple files. Had extra, lines at the end and some other things. I forgot to put the header in one, so it helped me out. So I updated the test default LG game file checker. So if you do create a new pattern, you can check it out to make sure it loads with no problem. So you don't want to check it out when you're loading a game. You can just check it out here before you even start loading up the game. So what about all the included game files I have? So yeah, I went through them and converted them all over. So there's no more, recoil patterns. Then I had another directory with ammo value with more patterns in there. There's no more of that. Now it's all into one game file. So I went through everything. I did my best. It's impossible for me kind of to test them all. I think with my health, there's no way I can it would take a long time to go through everything. So I went through like Demal's Shooters Wiki, to make sure I got things. There might be some problems with when you use ammo value, maybe. I think I got everything, but like one thing, like I found like Jurassic Park has, P1 ammo, P2 ammo. So I first put it in and I was like, wait a minute, Jurassic Park there's no reload in it. That's unlimited ammo game. So even though you have ammo in there, it's like, it's not, you can't use it for recoil. So there might be a handful games in there that are the same way that I have it set for on the ammo, but it might be, you know, a unlimited ammo game, so then the value doesn't change, so then you don't get the recoil. But I think, like I said, I looked at, you know, a whole bunch of videos of games playing to see if it is unlimited ammo or not. So I did a lot of checking to go through a lot of the game files. I think I got a lot of them. And another thing I probably missed is I know there's probably a lot more games that support the recoil rumble to solenoid. So I know that signal is probably in a lot of games. I just don't know what games they're in. So I probably have to use my program that reads the output signals and kind of watch when I hold the trigger down and let go, kind of see if that stays high and stays low and where I can use it. It's usually, you know, the gun motor signal, but that's probably another thing. But that's kind of hopefully the community can actually start now, since now the kind of code is done. Now we can I'll start working more on the game files. Okay. So, like I said, why am I kind of putting all the recoils and everything together? Well, that was kind of my goal when I started Hook of the Reaper. So when I started, I didn't know how all the light guns work. So as many know, I started the project when I got my first light guns in early January. So it's kind of sometimes funny. People think I'm like a light gun expert, but no. No. I just got my kind of first light guns, but I figured out how everything worked and just wrote a program for it, and it kind of worked out that way. But since I didn't know how all the light guns worked, I didn't know what I'd be coding in for the future. So it's kind of like a chicken and egg thing. So I couldn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know where I was going to end up at. I kind of knew what I planned for, but like I said, I just didn't know the unknown options of what's going to be out there. But as I figured things out and got more and more light guns in, that kind of come together. And that's why I figured out, okay, I probably just need 4 recoil options and probably a couple handful of reload options. And that's kind of where it started coming together. And also, I think as companies saw the use of Hook of the Reaper, then companies started sending me some light guns so I could actually test them out and put stuff in. So it was like really, really good. So I was like, awesome. So I started working on that. So yeah, so when I first started, yeah, I did have separate patterns for things, but I did want to have one file, because that's one thing I did not like kind of about MameHooker. Not kind of downplaying MameHooker. I know it was built a long time ago, and I don't know the circumstances of 10 years ago. Like I said, I just got my first light gun, 5 months ago. So, but it was kind of, you could do anything with it. But I didn't want custom patterns for every game, for every gun, for every combo of guns, and for every recoil method. So those kind of compound each other. So it's like for every game, for every gun, for every combo of guns, and every recoil method. That's a huge amount of game files. And that's kind of where Hook of the Reaper kind of started, where I was just like, this is crazy. If I buy another light gun or a different kind of light gun, I don't want to go and change all these INI files. I mean, a recoil is a recoil kind of thing. It's like it's easy to put that in kind of thing. And so that's kind of where I started developing and like, okay, how am I going to set this up kind of thing. So it's really cool to see now it's all that now it's finally coming together into one pattern. So as I said, this is the ending of the major light gun code. So I think I have all the commands in that I want, so I'm going to lock things down. And, I'm sure there's going to be some bugs, some places I got to fix. But yeah, so the majority of the light gun code is done. So it's going to be stable now, which is good. Because now I can start working on the game files in the game file database. Because I didn't want to keep on like changing the included game files, because every time I added stuff I had to go back and add things. So I didn't want to add more game files because it just add more stuff I had to change. So I just wanted to limit that until I got done with all the light gun code. But now that's done, I can actually start working on the game files and game database. And as you see here, I actually have set up a new email so if people have actually made changes to a game file, you said, hey, this game file, you can use recoil rumble to solenoid using this signal, here's the game file. You can now email it to me at gamefiles@hotr.6volt.com. So game files you can see here. And also I'll put it in the description of the video. And as you can tell, the new website will be at HOTR, which is Hook of the Reaper, .6volt.com. So it's not up right now. So give me a couple weeks to get it up in there. So I just got done coding all this stuff, finishing up, testing it out. So I'm going to take a little break, especially without the graduation, and so I'm pretty tired. And one cool thing to look at is kind of looking at how Hook of the Reaper grew. So February 12th is when I released version 1.0.0, and that was about 10,500 lines of code. So actually today is, I think, 99 days, so pretty much 100 days now. I've put in pretty much another almost 8,000 lines of code. So it's pretty much increased by 75%, so 1.75. So it's a pretty big change. So it's grown pretty fast and all that. So I've gotten pretty good amount of support. So probably for ending this, I just want to say probably, thanks to some people that helped out. So do big thanks to Retro Shooters for announcing me in the beginning. So, they helped me announce it to get the word out. But even without the announcement, people found it before they even announced it. It was kind of crazy. People were like, oh my God, there's the new Hook of the Reaper out, and people are like, what the hell's that? And, it's kind of interesting how people found out about it. But then big thanks to Chris Coolmod for his help and, to tell me how things work and all the testing. So he's done tons of testing with Hook of the Reaper, which, helped me out greatly. So that's been a huge help getting his feedback. If something went wrong or something, or you'd say, hey, this will work better. Getting his feedback on what will work and what good things people would like to be put in. So, yeah, big, huge thanks goes to Chris Coolmod. Then Vidal for making me an open fire light gun, and also his help with a lot of the open fire stuff. So his settings for the open fire light gun, tell me about the off-screen reload problem, and crap, there's something else. But yeah, he's been really big help with open fire stuff, and also making me an open fire light gun, which is really nice of him. So big thanks to Vidal, or Vidal. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. Then the open fire team for their help in answering the questions. I had some questions. They helped me out on their GitHub page. then the Blamcom team, so I think some people have seen. So yeah, I've talked to them. So I did talk to them a long time ago. I sent them a report kind of with the stuff with the prototype and all that. So I don't want to go and all that. But yeah, I've been talking with them a lot, and they're actually going to send me a light gun too, which is really cool for testing and all that. So I'll get that in. So I've been helping them stuff with on Discord since I'm trying to help with have experience. I'm as many of you know I'm actually an electrical engineer, so I have years of experience in electrical engineering, and I've worked in the semiconductor field, at Intel and AMD and some other spots. So then Ultimarc, Andy, for getting me the test hardware, the AimTrak, the PAC LED 64. So yeah, they helped me out. I just told him about my program and said, "Hey, can you help me out?" And he's like, "Yeah, I want to get behind this." So that's pretty cool. So I was like, "Whoa." I thought I had to explain more, but he was like all in right away. So that was really cool. Then the Xenas team, I talked to them a little, and they've been helping me out. So I talked to them, and I went to their website, got most of the settings, and also I gave, like I said, some feedback about the display stuff. So they're gonna try to get it in. Then the Fusion team, they were actually the first group that contacted me. Like I think a day or two after I released Hook of the Reaper. So they were the first group to contact me. So that was why Fusion was one of the first ones to go in. But they're going to be sending me an updated light gun with their new display. So hopefully I can get all the display stuff in for them. So then T Grace 13 for all of his testing on the alien light gun. So he's been doing a ton of work for testing it to make sure everything is good on it. So he's been like a big help with the alien light gun stuff. Then Bandicoot 37 for getting information on how to get the Supermodel Model 3 emulator working. Then anybody who filed a bug on issues, letting me know something was wrong. So thanks to anybody who's done that. Then to Rock Scissors Rock for the ideas he gave me. And also I got your name right this time, Rock Scissors Rock. Then thank you to anyone I forgot. Sorry, my memory is not the same after my health went down. My memory sucks, so I'm sorry if I forget anybody. And finally to the light gun community. So everybody has been amazingly supportive. Even anything, everybody's been always saying thank you. Like, we love love the program. Thank you for taking time. So everybody in the light gun community has been very, very supportive and thankful. So that's really cool. And even sometimes I'll go through forums and groups to try to see if any problems are happening or any like issues are like bugging people, and sometimes I'll see like people trying like Hook of the Reaper out when Maim Hooker was failing, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, it worked the first time," or like, "Holy crap, this is like amazing," and I'm like, it's just sometimes cool to just see that, to actually see people getting it working with like really just setting it up and letting it go with all the included stuff. So hopefully when we get all the patterns done, there would be no more, where's this pattern, where's that pattern anymore. We all have pretty much the same patterns, and I know this be new games. Like I know the Mission Impossible game came out, so it will only like new games we'll be looking for. So that's what I'm really kind of looking for. And also one other story I remember, like even like D-Grace 13 was telling me how cool it was. Like the first time he was playing the light gun, and he's seeing the both digits working on the alien light gun, and like how many games actually had ammo, and ammo was displaying on the both digits, and he said it was so cool just to go play all these new games and see all this ammo and the both digits working. So it was just those stories are kind of cool for me, just to see, hey, that's really cool to actually see, people think it's cool to actually have that, just working, just like both digits, all these guns. So cool. But that's kind of where I'm ending it. So hopefully now that I have a web email, people can start sending me game files, and I'll start building the database. But to say thanks to everybody, and this, like I said, a huge milestone. So thanks. But take care. Bye.